CBS All Access just dropped the latest episode of their animated Star Trek series, Lower Decks, Envoy. I just watched it, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think about it. Hit it. Hey gang, I'm JP and welcome back to Egotastic FunTime. Today, we're going to have a great time talking about the latest episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. It's the animated Star Trek series, our first animated Star Trek series since the 70s. Whatever you think about that. This is just going to be a first impressions video because this is, for me, a more visceral experience. I like doing visceral reviews, just reacting, and as opposed to doing, days of research. Got to put out content if you want to put out content. So I just watched the episode Envoy, and I have to say, right off the bat, I enjoyed the first episode. Second Contact. It was a good little start. This episode, Envoy, blows the first one right out of the water. We're really seeing a little bit more of what this show is, the characters, the journeys that they're going to be going through, positive things about them, negative things about them, things that they need to work on as people. This is the most Star Trek-y Star Trek thing I've ever seen. This is like meta Uber to the second power Star Trek. There is so much stuff. If you are a Star Trek The Next Generation fan, even if you don't like cartoons and comedy, because maybe you're a person who likes to just sit in a chair by themselves and think about how sucky their life is, every single frame has 90s Star Trek plastered all over the place. Even if they're not making references, they make references to Star Trek stuff that hardcore Trekkies know. But even if they're not doing that, it's all over the place. The ship, the corridors, the sound effects, the aliens, the way alien planets look, the way different cities look, the way ships look. When CBS first started saying, oh, we're going to do a Star Trek, you guys, we're bringing Star Trek back, everybody was like, oh my God, yay! And then they finally dropped their first offering of Star Trek, and I was like, oh no, what the hell is this thing? When CBS first announced that they were making Star Trek, the thing that went into our minds, us positive people, we had this big vision of what it was going to look like, what the aliens were going to look like with the ships, all this stuff. We were like, oh, Starfleet 30 years later or something like that. That thing that you came up with in your mind that nobody can ever achieve, because our minds are always better than what can physically be done in the universe, is exactly what you imagined, except for in an animated cartoon form, which of course, cartoon isn't necessarily the way I like to get my Star Trek, my traditional format of Star Trek. As a comedy that's taking place in a Star Trek universe, so far Lower Decks, when they said, hey, we're going to do a comedy animated Star Trek, this is the best outcome that we could have gotten. Hilarious. It's the creator is not only from Rick and Morty. He was a writer for Rick and Morty, so there's a lot of Rick and Morty vibes going on with this show. Can't remember his name, Michael something, Burnham, I don't know. He's a hardcore TNG fan, hardcore. More hardcore than me, and it's my favorite thing, he's more hardcore than you. Yeah, I said it. He got famous on Twitter writing, and you may have read it, you may have loved it. He wrote Star Trek The Next Generation Season 8 on Twitter. That's what made him famous. Well, that guy is now a creator of a Star Trek series, and this episode, it's got adventure, it's got great jokes, great references. It really has a lot of Star Trek jokes that only Trekkies would really get the full effect of. And the characters so far are great. You got Tendi. Is that her name, Tendi? She's an Orion girl. Don't know what's going on with the Orions. Maybe she left her planet. Maybe the Orion Syndicate is still doing shenanigans. But, some Orions are free. We've seen Orions serve in Starfleet before in the Kelvin timeline. We also have Rutherford, played by, I can't remember his name, but he played Pillboy in The Good Place. In the first episode, the bridge crew are kind of like jerks, self-involved type people. We kind of learned in this episode that's not really the case. That's kind of more of just what the Lower Decks people were perceiving them as. But in this episode, yeah, bridge crew is supportive. They love their jobs. They want to do, they want to do great work in Starfleet on their ship. So it's not what we really thought. I mean, there's things to complain about, but most things that people complain about are just stuff they're really trying to complain about. If you're complaining about a cartoon, then you really need to look inside yourself and maybe reevaluate the way that you present yourself to the world. The characters of Mariner, which Mariner is a very interesting character. She's part of Lower Decks, but it turns out she has this history that we don't quite know about yet. She's a badass. She knows how to go out there on an away mission and just be a total badass and schmooze people and take care of business, and really she knows everything that needs to be done, but she's got problems with discipline. She's got problems with authority, which is why I think she was probably demoted or punished and sent down to Lower Decks by her mother and father, which I'm sure we're going to learn more about later in the season. Boimler, I can't remember Jack Quaid's character's last name. Boimler, it doesn't matter. He is Starfleet by the book. He knows everything about Starfleet in the manual. He has no experience, so he knows what to do, so he thinks, but then he gets into a situation on a planet and he just messes everything up. And there's a really great scene with Ferengi in this episode. There's a lot of great scenes in this episode, you guys. I absolutely enjoyed it. I love all the callbacks to every 90s Star Trek thing you can think of. It will take you days, if not weeks, to identify every single Easter egg in this episode. Every alien race, every alien structure looks exactly the way that it would look if this evolved from Star Trek: The Next Generation. This is the first CBS Star Trek offering that actually has evolved from something Star Trek from the past. It looks like it, it sounds like it, sometimes it even feels like it, but they flip it on its head. They show you the other side of all these great types of things that happen in the Star Trek universe from the point of view of people that aren't, they're not the cream of the crop. They're not the most revered ship or crew. This is the USS Cerritos, which is a California-class ship. Not every ship is the Enterprise. The Enterprise is basically a floating hotel of a bunch of regal jerks. And by jerks, I just mean people you wouldn't want to hang out with. They're all a bunch of stick in the muds, you guys. This is my people, the Lower Decks. This is like my Orvillian style crew. Real people getting in the situations and how they deal with them. But in a cartoon, everything's over exaggerated because it's a cartoon. I don't know why I keep having to explain this to people. It's a cartoon. So this was a first impression video, so I'm not gonna break down every single little thing that happened. You can go ahead and watch it on CBS All Access, or you can watch it in the way that I watch it, which is some other way. I asked this question last week and I'm going to ask it again today. Is this show, Star Trek Lower Decks, worth subscribing to CBS All Access for? And this time, I have to say the answer is still no. If I didn't review TV shows and movies and Star Trek and Orville and stuff like that, I would subscribe to CBS All Access once this series was finished. This is definitely worth subscribing to the service for 1 month once all the episodes are finished, you guys. I would highly recommend doing that, paying $6 whatever bucks, binge watch the whole thing, cancel the hell out of this service. If you like this video and you want to support more of my content, feel free. I love you so much. To click down below. There's Patreon, there's PayPal, links of all sorts, all varieties, all creeds and colors down there, you guys. I'll see you very soon. And as always, I hope all your times are egotastic fun times. Love you, bye-bye!